A phone call between West Africa and Tehran just shook the foundations of international politics. It wasn't broadcast, it wasn't announced. But what happened in that quiet moment might change global alliances forever. In the middle of rising tensions and violence in the Middle East, Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Hosseini Khamenei picked up the phone and dialed Ibrahim Traoré, the young, defiant leader of Burkina Faso. What followed was not just a conversation, it was a cry for help. Sources close to intelligence channels claim the words were chilling. "Netanyahu has attacked. We are in trouble. My brother, we need you." No one expected it, and now the world is watching. Just 48 hours before the call, Israel launched unexpected strikes deep into Iranian positions in the region. The world saw the missiles on satellite images, but it was what followed that changed the narrative. Tehran was reeling, and the US stood silently by. For Iran, it was clear they were being encircled, pressured, and provoked into war. Normally, Iran would turn to its allies in the region, but this time Khamenei looked to Africa, to Traoré. Why? Because the young leader in Ouagadougou had something others didn't: fire, defiance, and a growing reputation for standing up to the West. He had already removed French influence from his country and inspired a pan-African resistance. Now he was being asked to think beyond Africa. The call was not just political, it was strategic, symbolic, and deeply personal. The call began with no formalities. Khamenei's voice came through low, slow, serious. "Brother Traoré," he said, "Netanyahu has attacked us. The Zionist regime bombed our positions. We are in trouble. We need you." There was a pause. Silence. Sources say Traoré didn't respond immediately. This wasn't expected. This was beyond his usual battlefield. But then he answered, calmly, "What do you need from us?" Khamenei didn't mince words. "We need your voice. We need your strength. We need to show them the global South will not kneel." It was a call not just for solidarity, but for action. Around them, their aides listened, stunned. Intelligence insiders claim the call was partially intercepted and translated by Western listening posts. One analyst described it as a political earthquake in real time. Traoré's final words before ending the call: "You will not face this alone." The signal ended, but the shockwaves had just begun. Within hours, international headlines were dominated by one question: did Khamenei really call Ibrahim Traoré for help? And more importantly, why? The idea that Iran would reach out to a West African leader during such a crisis seemed unbelievable to many in the West. But for observers in the global South, it made perfect sense. Across social media, clips of the call transcript, real or fabricated, began spreading. Telegram channels in Tehran hinted at a new axis of resistance forming. African youth across the Sahel reposted quotes from Traoré with pride. French news outlets, usually dismissive of Traoré, suddenly focused obsessively on his every move. In Washington, officials reportedly held emergency briefings. One anonymous Pentagon source told a journalist, "This is not the kind of alliance we planned for." The West was rattled, not just by the call, but by the symbolism. Traoré didn't wait long to respond publicly. At a press conference in Ouagadougou, he stood with a Burkina flag behind him and delivered a short but thunderous statement. "We do not ignore the cry of a brother. If one of us bleeds, we all bleed." The message was clear. No direct mention of Iran, no direct call to arms, but the implication was unmistakable. His supporters filled the streets. Thousands marched through the capital chanting, "Solidarity is power." Iranian envoys landed discreetly that night. Officially, it was a cultural exchange. Unofficially, they met behind closed doors with Traoré's advisors. Rumors of cyber cooperation and military consultation began circulating. Iran, historically isolated in Africa, suddenly had a potential strategic partner. For Traoré, the move was bold but calculated. He was sending a message to the world. The days of African silence were over. Western observers began drawing maps of potential new alliances, with Burkina Faso already aligned with Mali and Niger in the Sahel Security Pact, and now possibly opening communication with Iran. A new geopolitical reality was forming. What if this network expands? What if the global South begins to act in unified defiance, not just on economic matters, but on security and resistance? Netanyahu, since the initial strike, had gone silent. No press briefings, no tweets, no public comment. That silence spoke volumes. It's one thing to confront Iran. It's another to provoke an emerging anti-imperialist network stretching from West Africa to the Middle East. Even in countries like Brazil and South Africa, the story made front-page news. Analysts began using a term few expected to hear again: non-aligned solidarity. This wasn't just an attack, it was the birth of a new world current. The implications of this moment are still unfolding. But one thing is clear: the center of gravity is shifting. For decades, power flowed in predictable directions, north to south, west to east. Now things are moving diagonally. Young leaders like Traoré are no longer playing small. They're stepping onto the global stage, not as beggars for aid, but as equals, partners, allies. The call from Khamenei wasn't a fluke. It was the beginning of something larger. The West can no longer afford to ignore the rise of Africa's new generation, especially when they align themselves with nations the West has long tried to isolate. The battle is no longer just about missiles or sanctions, it's about narrative. And in this case, the narrative is being shaped from Ouagadougou, not Paris. The world heard the call, and it saw the response. It wasn't a declaration of war, it was something deeper, something more dangerous to the established order, a declaration of alignment. Traoré didn't promise troops, he didn't send missiles. He offered something far more valuable: moral legitimacy and a platform for resistance. Whether or not more concrete cooperation follows, this call will be remembered. It will be studied in universities, dissected in think tanks, and repeated in speeches from Bamako to Beirut. Because this wasn't just about Netanyahu, this was about showing that new alliances are no longer dictated by old colonial frameworks. This was about two leaders from two different continents standing shoulder to shoulder against a shared enemy, not just a nation, but an idea: domination without consent. If you're watching this, know that you're witnessing history. A phone call sparked it, but the fire is spreading fast. Traoré has made it clear he's not here to play by the old rules. And if Iran, despite being under decades of sanctions and threats, still sees value in reaching out to Africa, then perhaps Africa is no longer on the sidelines. Maybe it's time we ask ourselves, who's really shaping the future? Is it the ones with missiles or the ones with voices that can't be silenced anymore? Either way, this story is just beginning. The next moves will be louder, bigger, and the world might not be ready for them. If you made it this far, drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Traoré should respond further? Was Khamenei right to reach out? How will Netanyahu react now? Like this video if you want more real-time geopolitical breakdowns, and hit subscribe so you never miss what's coming next. Trust me, you'll want to stay tuned. This is no longer politics as usual.